Hello guys, today I want to talk about consonant and vowels, but before that I want to specific tell about consonants. So I'm Winanukra and this is my video.
The first is the manner of articulation into plosive or stops, nasals, fricatives, laterals, and approximants. And according to the second, the points or places of articulation into bilabials, labiodentals, dentals, alveolars, postalveolars, palatoalveolars, palatals, velars, and glottals. Points of articulation are situated along the upper margin of the oral cavity, and manner of articulation indicates different ways of interfering with the passing air stream. So the first is stops. This class of consonant phenomena is marked by the complete closure or occlusion of the vocal tract, creating the air pressure behind the closure and sudden release of the air. The sudden release of the air results in the phonetic effect of plosives. We can look at three stages in the articulation of the stops. First, creation of the occlusion or closure. Second, a brief hold in this position. Third, release of the hold. Features that may accompany these sounds are as follows: A. Voicing, which occurs during stage 2 of the plosive articulation, producing a voice consonant, and B. Aspiration, in which voiceless stops are accompanied by a strong breath when these sounds occur initially or they are stressed and occur medially. Voiceless stop sounds are fortes, articulate with greater energy. Its opposite leanings are those sounds that carry weak muscular energy. Normally, voice sounds are leanings. So I want to tell you some of the example, like this consonant in p, k, p, t, d. So I want to tell you some of the words in initial, medial, and final. So these are for p. I want to use space in initial, opal in medial, final in cup. In k, kill in initial, medial is cake, dark in final. B, I use bold in initial, cable in medial, and crab in final. Next is fricatives. Fricatives are articulated by narrowing the passage of air so as to create audible friction. The active articulator comes so close to the passive articulator that a constriction is created narrow enough for the air to force through. Complete stoppage is not made. 4 pairs of phenomena in this category have been identified, each a voiceless or voice sound. As we have noted in an early section, fricatives are grouped with some other sounds to be commonly called continuants because this friction noise created can be prolonged. So this is the example. I use F, V, T, S, and U. So for F, I use pure in initial, avoid in medial, off in final. For S, I use fan in initial, mustard in medial, pass in final. For V, I use fast in initial, evening in medial, and dove in final. So next is affricates. These phenomena are also classified as stop sounds by some phoneticians. These are a combination of the articulatory process for stop and fricative. The front of the tongue is raised to make full contact against the rear part of the gum bridge. The sides of the tongue are raised to touch the side upper teeth. The airstream is stopped behind the occlusion formed in this manner. However, the effervescent quality is produced by the manner in which the closure is released. The front of the tongue is withdrawn in the direction of the hard palate. Air pressure is released through the gap between the withdrawing tongue front and the hard palate and the sides of the tongue and the upper teeth. This friction is of shorter duration than the one we hear in fricatives. Ch is described as voiceless palato-alveolar aggregate and Ch as voice palato-alveolar aggregate. We hear this in church and church. The following examples show their occurrence in all these three positions. So I want to tell you about the examples of them. So I use chin in initial, itchy in medial, bleach in final, and for ch I use char in initial, insurgent and medial, and bridge and final. Okay, next we will talk about nasals. These sounds are not strictly placed in the consonant category, but rather on the boundary between contoid and vocoid. They are produced exactly like stops, except that the nasal passage is open. For producing these sounds, the airstream is carried through the nasal passage, which is opened by lowering the soft palate. In the mouth, also stoppage is formed by bringing the tongue in contact with the passive articulator. So I want to tell you about the examples of them. So for M, I use make in the initial, perfume in medial, and film in final. And for N, I use nasty in initial, range and medial, and human in the final. And for N, this is so special consonants because it don't have words in initial. So I want to tell you just medial and final. Okay. So for the medial, I use kink, and in the final, I use king. Okay, we will move to the next lateral. This sound is produced by holding the tip of the tongue against the central part of the alveolar ridge. The sides are kept open either on one side or both. This is called the secondary oral aperture, through which the airstream escapes without friction. Vocal cords are set in vibration and the nasal passage is shut off by raising the soft palate. L is described as the voice alveolar lateral. So this is the examples of these sounds. I use lam in initial, full in the medial, and mental in the final. So we will move to the next again. Approximants. In terms of articular description, these are vowel-like sounds. The passage of the air is constricted by the active articulators in the oral cavity. It occupies a consonantal position in a syllabic structure. R is a frictionless continuant and G and W semi-vowels. So this is the examples. So I use ras in the initial, brack in the medial, and car in the final. And for W, I want to tell you again that this don't have the final, so it's just have in initial and medial. So I want to tell you that Wax I use in initial, and on I use in the medial. And the last is J. I only got one word of this one, so check it I use in initial. And then you could see the other things of the consonants material on this side. So guys, that's all my explanation of this material for today. For your attention, I say thanks. Goodbye.